front row pretty much. Awesome. Okay, so, dude, welcome to SydEthereum. This is awesome. This is like the biggest venue we've had yet, and it's, yeah, thanks for coming out. This is pretty awesome. So I'm Nathan Waters. I started SydEthereum back in 2014 with a mate of mine, and now there's 4 of us that organize and we take it in turns, so it's not as like stressful. So this month is my turn, so it's stressful. Next month, I think next month is at Atlassian. Ben's organising that one. Then it's back to Nick or Luke. So Nick was the guy doing the check-ins at the door. I think Luke's at Burning Man at the moment, which sounds awesome. Okay, so we're just going to quickly get into it. So first up, we have Sarah Nelson from SSE, the Sydney School of Entrepreneurship, who's just going to give a welcome and housekeeping. And they're basically providing this space for us, and it's a brand new space, so we'll get her to talk about it. So, Sarah Nelson.
First of all, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which this building is located in Lead Beach, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and on behalf of the Sydney School of Entrepreneurship, I pay my respects to elders past and present, and extend our respects to any Aboriginal people in attendance today. Very quickly, some housekeeping. There's toilets, ground floor and first floor. Ladies are upstairs and accessible are upstairs. In the unlikely event of emergency, the exits are at the rear and at the front of the building, and then please assemble at Mary Ann Street at the security gate entrance. And most importantly, we are absolutely delighted to have you. Sydney School of Entrepreneurship is a pretty unprecedented global partnership in terms of our members. There are 11 New South Wales universities and 10 New South Wales. We were established with cornerstone funding from the New South Wales Government last year. The whole idea to create a larger common stage for New South Wales students to access and develop their entrepreneurial mindset and skills. So they remain with their home institution and the discipline that they're enrolled in. And they come to the Sydney School of Entrepreneurship, which is Sydney in name only, very much statewide in operation, for that access to developing their capabilities in terms of a pretty inspiring, cutting-edge, experiential learning environment, and accessing that peer-to-peer learning at a really, really high level interface with industry, which is where we're so grateful to have you here tonight, and we hope to see you many times in the future and increasingly meet the next generation of entrepreneurs that we see through here. So have a great time, and thanks for joining us in our new venue.
Cool. And so next up we have Denny Wu, who just wants to say a few words. So it costs a lot of money to put this on with pieces of gear. A lot of else don't do that. We do. We kind of got into this habit of doing it, and it's fun. Like, it's nice having free gear and free pizza. Normally it's provided by corporates who are kind and nice. This month they decided, nah. So I found Denny Wu, who has an amazing story. He was involved really early on in the Bitcoin scene, and so he's basically donated and sponsored all the pizza and beer that you're drinking tonight. So this guy. He's 19 and has an amazing story, so you should hit him up after this. So, a few words.
Cool. So hi everyone. I was gonna actually prepare something, but didn't have time, so this is gonna be totally unscripted. First of all, why am I here? The short answer: I got into Bitcoin back when Satoshi was around. The long answer: I think the world is really unfair. Like, blockchains, Bitcoin, and Ethereum has allowed me to escape this unfairness, but this doesn't help the 7 billion people on this planet that are still pretty much living in a society where it's pretty hard to actually do what you want to do and make an impact in this world. And we have to worry about all the stresses of pretty much work and corporate life. I think decentralization, making it so that you can have trustless exchanges of everything from money and have Bitcoin to pretty much anything is it's revolutionary. And I've been part of this journey since 2010, back when we downloaded Bitcoin Qt and actually mined CPU mine for you to now with the boom of ICOs and doing amazing things with crypto. So I guess 3 things. Number one, my background. I'm 19 years old. I've worked as a software engineer for Uber. Canada, and I actually just left my job as a product manager at Atlassian to do my own startup. It's called Hello Me. Have you done any personality tests? Okay, next time have you done a personality test, like Myers-Briggs, anything would be fine. Oh, like half the people. So those tests are pretty much based on 4 decades old theory. They were developed in a pen and paper world. No one, except for an advisor who's advising the startup, is actually using data science and machine learning to build a new model personality that measures not 4 letters, but thousands of factors that make us unique. So I'm building Hello Me, a startup that aims to empower everyone so you can discover the true you, track changes in your personality, and also just be the best you. Secondly, if you're working on any projects in the crypto space and want investments, like pre-ICO, seed investment, etc., talk to me. Thirdly, if you're looking for someone like a blockchain developer, writing smart contracts, etc., also talk to me. But most importantly, if you want to join me in my journey to change human personality and pretty much build something that doesn't exist and is pretty much not going to exist unless you join me with this journey, talk to me. I have my LinkedIn in the meetup page, so yeah, stay in touch.
So you're going to be swamped after doing pizza time. Can I say how many Bitcoins you were mining per day, back in the day?
I don't even want to talk about the wallet that I lost.
Yeah, it's an awesome story. So next up, we have Ingo Weber from Data 61. It's a CSIRO initiative. So he's going to be talking about some of the research papers that he's been working on. So Ingo Weber, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Let me first explain what Data 61 is. There used to be an independent research institute called Finca, and the CSIRO used to have a business unit called Digital Productivity, basically their computing arm. And last year, about 14 months ago, the two were merged, and we're now Data 61. We're a business unit of CSIRO, just like minerals or land and water, things like that. So everything that's computing is in, or a lot of things that are computing are in Data 61 as far as CSIRO is concerned. So we do computing research, among others, on blockchain, and that's what I'm here to talk about today. So I'm leading a team over at Australian Technology Park. It's called Architecture and Analytics Platforms, and I'll primarily focus on what we are doing there, which is software architecture and model-driven engineering for blockchain. But I'll start off with a bit of an overview of all the blockchain research at Data 61, which is basically this slide. So we look at designing systems with blockchain, design trade-offs, the model-driven development that I'll talk about a bit more, governance and risk management, how to build trustworthy blockchain systems. And on the one hand, we do some formal analysis. Sorry for the resolution, can't really see anything there. And on the other hand, we do some empirical research where we're monitoring how people are actually using blockchains, public blockchains primarily, and what they're struggling with. And then we use some of these insights to also build tools that will help people struggle less with these problems. And the third focus area is on defining and using smart contracts. On the one hand, as legal contracts. So we have a team, a world-leading research team on legal informatics up in Brisbane. And they are looking at formal logic to express legal concepts and contracts and stuff like that. And some work in my team on that side is on business processes, which is also related to the model-driven development. We've been in the press about 2 months ago, mostly positive, I think, because we wrote 2 reports for the Australian Treasury, and they were launched on the 6th of June. The first report is on distributed ledger technology foresighting. So that's basically the scientific version of a glass ball, where we look into the future. So this is done by a completely different team in Brisbane mostly. What has been done largely by my team and some other technical researchers is the technical risks and opportunities. And these 2 reports are available on the web. There's also a nice video to explain how blockchain can be used in supply chains, using the meat supply chain. It's about 1:50 long, so people who don't really know much about blockchain, that's a good starting point. And this report is really designed on helping organizations to figure out what they should be doing with blockchain, particularly if they don't know too much about it yet. All right. Now, with regards to the software architecture angle, so designing with systems with blockchain, we have 2 papers that are talking about software as blockchain as a software connector on one hand, but also the new one from earlier this year is a taxonomy paper that includes this design process on how you go about architecting, how you can go about architecting applications on blockchain. Also asking yourself the question, should I be using blockchain at all for the thing that I want to build? And it also goes into details on a more general level about the different decisions you can make. I'll just jump ahead a little bit to give you this overview. So this is one of the tables where we're looking at the different aspects of systems or different design alternatives. So, for example, if you want to use blockchain, using a fully decentralized public blockchain, using partially decentralized with some central aspects, or using fully centralized systems, and then looking at the different properties, like the fundamental properties of blockchain versus cost, performance, and how many failure points you have. So there are 3 tables like that in the paper, and also a lot of other explanation. Just going back here. Then for quality analysis, also from a software architecture point of view, we looked at cost and performance simulation in particular. For model-driven engineering, we have 2 tools. One generates smart contracts for public registries from models. So you define the data model, and you define some additional aspects, and it generates all the smart contract code automatically from these models. The other one is about business processes, generating smart contracts that implement business process models, which is a really fast way of getting some development going on blockchain. So you define what the activities should be and then translate that into a smart contract. Then we have a tool which we call ETH. So that's basically a more public version of Dropbox, where the metadata of the files rests on blockchain in a smart contract, and we can define who has write access to it. So if you're the owner of the file, only you can change the file, but pretty much everybody who is on your blockchain has read access. And for the actual files, that can be quite big, we're using IDFS in the backend at the moment. Then go to the business processes. So just in some more detail, here we can take this process model at design time, translate it into a smart contract, which is a template of other smart contracts. Right? So you have a process model that says, whenever you have an order, here is how this should be processed. And then at runtime, we can create instances from this model. And the way we do that is we have a factory contract. And from that factory contract, we create instance processes at runtime. We have a trigger component here that basically translates web service calls from your enterprise systems into into blockchain transactions. So that's in terms of the integration, it shouldn't be a huge overhead, right? Because as in traditional enterprise integration, you integrate people with other web services. And the trigger then basically takes part of interacting through the blockchain. There are some nice properties, of course, that you get from that. So we can support escrow directly out of the box. Everybody who is on the blockchain, everybody who is part of a particular business process can see where the process is at. So this is primarily useful for collaborative processes across organizations. And you have transparency in terms of and provenance, so you can go back. If the wrong thing was delivered at the end of a collaborative process, then you can go back and look at the messages, when exactly they were sent, and what the content was, to really establish what was ordered versus what was delivered later on. And then I have some more in-depth slides around that on the formal side. So I think I'm going a bit too slow, so let's see what I can do. So for the cost comparison, we looked also with the lens of business process execution. We asked the question, how much more expensive is it to use blockchain over a cloud service? And we used Amazon Web Services, SWF, simple workflow system, versus public Ethereum blockchain. And of course, you know, if you don't have to pay the transaction fees on the public Ethereum because you have a private blockchain, that doesn't matter so much. But the cost is also related to basically the complexity of the calculation. So it's not only a cost question, it's also a throughput question. And we have, with our cost models, you can basically estimate the application overhead. And we ran some experiments where we had 32 instances of a process executed on the public Ethereum blockchain, whereas there's 1,000 on Amazon SWF. And then we had another process where we had 5,300 process instances, and we didn't want to pay all the ether for running that experiment on the public blockchain, so we ran that one on the private one. And the result was that using public blockchain was about 2 orders of magnitude more expensive than SWF, so about 100 times. And that was when 1 ether was $11. It's slightly more expensive now. And then it was about 35 cents US per process instance. And if you do need escrow, if you do have to pay commercial escrow services, because commercial escrow services charge often between 0.8 and 3.5% or so. So back in those days, if you had a value of more than $10 that you would put into escrow, it was already more cost effective to pay the transaction fee on Ethereum. And it's kind of pointless to update these numbers now because tomorrow the exchange rates will be different again. But the cost model that's behind it, you can look at that and kind of buy it with up-to-date numbers. One other thing that I want to expand a little bit on, we looked at the aspect of availability. So this is some of the empirical work that we're doing. So availability is a system's readiness for correct service, according to definition in the literature. For blockchain, when you look at blockchain as a component, the read availability is excellent, right? Because you have so many nodes all around the world that can have, you can have as many nodes as you want, more or less, that hold the same data, that hold a replica. But what about the write availability for sending in transactions, for calling a function of a smart contract? So that was less clear. So Ethereum, for quite a lot of people, they would accept 12 blocks of confirmation, and that should take about 3 minutes. But when we looked at the data we collected over 3.5 months, then here you see the time in seconds. Right? So 3 minutes would be about 180 seconds, and that was true for just under 40% of the transactions. So basically the measurements did not confirm that it was as quick as it should be. Now, when you're building software, that's something you kind of want to know. The other thing that you have to be aware of is this part, which is you don't get to 100% very quickly. You get to 97% of the transactions taking about twice as long as the average or as the mean, the median. But some of them take really a lot longer. So again, if you want to build a system, you have to, in a way, be able to cope with that, or your system has to be able to cope with that. Then one other thing that we looked at was in Ethereum, the block gas limit. So that gas limit is set by miners more or less through voting. So every time you win a new block, you can vote it to go up or to go down. And it is the sum of gas of all transactions that is maximally allowed to be in a particular block. So gas basically translates into complexity / into number of transactions. So you can have in one block with a given limit, you can have a lot of transactions with low complexity, or you can have even just one transaction with a very high complexity. And last year, there was this distributed denial of service attack where the block gas limit dropped from almost 5 million, 4.7 I think it was, dropped down to 2 million and half a million even. And so for quite a while it was at 2 million, and for 3 days it was at 500,000 gas. If you don't know Ethereum, those numbers won't mean anything to you necessarily, but it's basically 10% of what it used to be. So the blocks have to be a lot lighter in that period. And so the question was then for us, who will actually be affected by that? So this graph is a little bit hard to read. This is the gas used times 1,000, so this is 4 million, this is 2 million, this is 500,000. So those were the two limits. And then we looked at all the transactions that had happened on public Ethereum up until that point when they reduced the gas limit. And this curve here is contract creations. The red one is function calls, and the green one is regular transactions. Pretty sorry about the resolution. So as you can see, regular transfers, just one person transferring money to another person, almost all of these transactions are about 21,000 gas, so next to nothing relative to the gas limits. For the function calls, and you can see some of them actually take a lot more gas. And for contract creation, these are basically the heavyweights. You can see that here the curve intersects with this line at about 50%, 53 I think it was. So for 3 days, half of the contracts that were previously deployed on Ethereum wouldn't have been possible to deploy these contracts anymore. Then when it was raised to 2 million gas, and it was 2 million gas and below, I think, for about 2-3 months, 17% of the transactions were still excluded of the contract creation transactions. So this is a bit of a danger in a public blockchain that is more or less democratic. Remember, the miners can vote on where that line should be, and it's not under your control. And the availability of the blockchain may decrease for your system because the network decides it has to react to a DDoS attack in a particular way. But you know, other measures were taken since then, and I think the block gas limit was very stable, above 3 million afterwards. Right. Then the last one I wanted to mention is latency simulation. So we basically looked at modeling a whole application that uses blockchain somewhere in the middle to communicate across different nodes. And we wanted to see if we could actually simulate the latency on the application level from measurements that we're taking for individual components, including the blockchain. So basically, there are 3 different graphs here. One is this, what we got as a simulation result. The other one is the measured results. And you can see that they are similar. They're not perfect, but usually we were within about 10% of accuracy for the outliers, and a lot more precise for the medians. So traditional software architecture methods of performance simulation actually seem to work if you have blockchain in the middle, even though there's all this variance, these extreme differences in delays. Okay, so I could talk on and on. I won't do that. I'll finish here. So if you're interested in our research, here's the reference, and the 2 blockchain reports are here, and if you want to get in touch with me, please drop me an email.
We've only got time for one question. Okay. And the next one that I don't. Maybe one question? Is there a question?
Like, I don't really know about it, so do you have any opinions or how this would affect your project or anything in that sense?
No, I wouldn't want to speculate, but we keep the monitoring running. So this would be certainly a data point or a period of data points that would be quite interesting to watch. We try to do that, with the split between Ethereum and Ethereum Classic, but the measurement nodes we had set up were probably configured and didn't capture a lot of interesting stuff. But yeah, we'll definitely watch that one.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Ingo. All right, so next up we have Shane Greenup from Robotta. He's going to be exploring how can we use blockchain to essentially solve fake news.
Hi everyone. While Nathan's taking care of that, first of all, I have to apologise. I have a cold where I feel a little bit like death. I've got the cold and flu tablets in me keeping me up, so anything I do which is annoying because I'm sick, anything I do that's awesome is probably something. Take credit for the blue flying sickness or that. Okay, so Ingo in the last talk mentioned when people are evaluating blockchain, the first question is blockchain even appropriate for what we're doing? And that's why I'm here tonight, is actually find out whether what I'm working on is blockchain relevant to it or not. I'm here to ask for that help from you. So I've been working on a solution to the problem of misinformation for many years now. And I want to walk you through that. And so this talk's going to break into basically three parts, and the first two are the main ones. The first thing I want to do is talk about the problems that we are having fighting from the fake news, and communicate a bit of a warning to everyone here that may be working on it, and everyone here, when you are reading about attempts to solve it, Facebook and Google, some of those red flags will get for, because as far as I can tell, no one else is pointing out these concerns the way that I have been interacting with them. So I really want to go into that. And then I'm going to talk to you about what I've been working on for a few years and how I've changed from what I was doing back in 2012 to now, and how we are launching that, which will lead into the last bit, which is before I get started on that project, how does the blockchain potentially make it brilliant, or is it completely inappropriate, and will it answer questions? So before I begin, a little bit about me, just so that you know where I'm coming from in this whole process. Because I have a very weird background. I did a double degree, science, philosophy, history, philosophy, science. Then I started an affiliate marketing website, and then I did a range of startups on mapping outdoor recreational activities like rock climbing and canyoning and that sort of stuff. And last year I made a biotech company, went to San Francisco into indie bio, and I'm a generalist, a futurist, I'm a techno-optimist, and as you'll see as I go through this, all this sort of weird background all comes together into this issue. And you'll see, particularly the philosophy of history and philosophy of science comes together. Now, when everyone tries to solve this problem of fake news, back off. So when we try to solve fake news, who here thinks that we want to have a central authority that declares the truth dogmatically, and who thinks B? I was going to ask this, because who wants A? Anyone want A? The dogmatic declaration of truth. No one wants that, right? That's obviously the poor option. Yeah, James.
AI, not humans.
AI, I will bring that up. I will cover that. Arguably, that is a great point. Maybe we get some perfect benevolent, thank you, AI that is perfect at determining truth and falsity, and they can just guarantee the truth. I'll cover that. So obviously we want some sort of system that improves critical thinking in some systematic way, and let others make up their own mind. So why is everyone doing the opposite? Every attempt so far basically comes down to versions of, we're going to figure out what's fake news and flag it for you. Google's looking at things to identify misinformation and punish it in their algorithm. Facebook wants to allow people to flag potentially false information and then flag it publicly. Everyone else that sort of looks at it and goes, you're not doing enough. They do come up with the same thing. Develop browser plugins that will add little tags in the corner that say that it's false. Now, all of these, none of them are censoring anything, none of them are deleting information. But when you flag misinformation, what's the intent? The ultimate outcome ends up being the same. This is bad information, you shouldn't be sharing it, you shouldn't believe it. If you're punching it in the algorithm in Google, you're pushing it down the search results, you are hiding the information, which basically it trends towards a form of censorship and deleting information. So Well, I think this is you flagging misinformation out of existence is what we're trying to do, one way or the other. And this is the slide where I'm going to go through all of the problems with this sort of approach and work through them systematically, but as quickly as I can. So, because of limited time, I'm going to go through this very quickly. And so there's going to be questions at the end because these are complex issues. But first one's obvious. Who do you trust with this power? Do you trust Google to decide what's true and false? Do you trust Facebook to decide? Do you trust the UN, the governments? There's no one that you really want to trust with this sort of power to make information go away, particularly when you're looking at the internet where it's all information. So if Fox News decides that they're going to run this story and not that story, that's fine. You don't have to watch Fox News. You can go to The Guardian or Huffington Post, or you choose your media outlets, because no media outlet controls all information. But the internet has become a repository for basically all information now. And Facebook and Google aren't the internet, but they are our interface to the internet. Practically speaking, speak to the less tech-savvy friends that you have, and they think of Facebook as the internet. And they'll say, I read it on Facebook. It won't be on Facebook, it'll be someone shared an article from something, but to them, the interface is basically the thing. So when we start asking Facebook or Google to flag incorrect information out of existence, we are basically deleting the access to that information from the public's ability. They can't access it, practically speaking. They can, but they won't. So who do you trust with that sort of power? And then, if, let's say Facebook does this thoroughly, and they start going, anything that's not true, we're not going to allow on our medium. Now, the thing with the nth degree, so you can sort of, I'm taking it right to the end. Let's say they decide Christianity, Islam, and Judaism can't all be true. One of them must be wrong. In fact, you know what? Let's say they're all wrong. Anyone publishes anything on Facebook that says God is real, we will filter it out. Now, if they did that, then every religious person on the planet would be outraged, and they would rightly stop using Facebook and go to another social media website that allows them to do that. So what we end up with is ideological echo chambers on a global scale. Like, you think there's echo chambers now? There aren't. On Facebook, you can see your friends that disagree with you, and you can interact. But imagine if you have like 4 different social media networks, and each social media network is divided along ideological lines because of which media outlet decided what was true and what was false. So, any attempts to start deciding what's true and false will split up the population because everyone believes crazy things. And they believe it. They're not doing it just to troll. They actually believe things that aren't true. So, you will divide the world. So the second big issue is how to guarantee accuracy. For a start, it's philosophically impossible to say what is true and false. We've been working on this for thousands of years. We can't say it with certainty. So, how does any system do that? All we're going to do is approximate it. And we can get pretty close, but we will never actually have it. So what we have here is a system where people are trying to get towards this impossibility, and the first step, they start flagging this information. It creates a false sense of security. People start going, oh, that's okay. Real misinformation being removed from my newsfeed, I can start believing it. And it's imperfect, so people will start believing things that aren't true because it made it through the filter. So it creates a negative consequence, even though it's intending to be good. And that leads to the ultimate problem, the artificial intelligence that is benevolent and perfect. We implement a system where Facebook and Google and everyone uses this AI and no misinformation gets through. The next generation that grows up in that world will never have any reason to doubt anything that they come across. We are training a generation of people to be passive believers in everything they read. And all you need is one person to come out and put a lie in there and take control of the population. So this goes back to the question, do we want a dogmatic authority that tells you the truth or critical thinkers? We need critical thinkers. The only way to solve fake news is for the people to be critical thinkers. As a matter of fact, and so this goes into the philosophy and history of philosophy. We've only ever come up with 2 ways to approximate knowledge and truth. First is the Socratic method. It comes down to designed to sting people into realizing their own ignorance. True knowledge gained only by constantly questioning assumptions that underlie all we do. To achieve truth is to engage in a permanent state of critical thinking. Socrates walked around to people that claimed to know things and said, how do you know that? What do you mean by that? What does that mean? Just, it was a pain in the ass, and that's why they killed him. But it worked. He made the point. Like, people that claim to know things don't really know it. They think they know it, and they think it for a range of reasons, and that's the best we can ever hope for. So, you know, his famous thing, he's the wisest man because he knows that he knows nothing. I appear to be wiser than he because I do not fancy I know what I don't know. I can't teach anybody anything, I can only make them think. And then more recently, Sir Karl Popper, who was knighted for this very observation, came up with the principle of falsification, which is the ideal underlying science, which is it's not a scientific theory unless you can falsify it. So you come up with a theory, you explain the theory, and then you go, this is true unless this is observed, this is observed, this is observed. You lay out exactly what would prove it wrong, and then you go about trying to prove it wrong. So science never gives us the answer, it just works on showing us what is not the answer. That's all it ever does. So every genuine test of a theory is an attempt to falsify and refute it, and no matter how many instances of white swans we may have observed, this does not justify the conclusion that all swans are white. You have your theory, you go and you try and disprove it. Try and find a black swan. Don't find another 100 white swans that prove nothing. So, on being less wrong. When you understand knowledge and truth in this way, your objective is just, there's no claims of truth in this system. No one ever has the truth, and we don't need to know it. Knowing it is a mistake. I need to know. And there's no need to trust anyone when you're going through this. You don't need to trust any authority. Your objective is actually to challenge all authority, challenge everything. And so that's where the emphasis is. I.e., consider claims critically, critical thinking, discard that which is incorrect, and be less wrong. This is the answer to misinformation. So, that's the first section. Hopefully anyone that's working on the problem of fake news will take that into stride, because everyone's trying to flag misinformation. And everyone will keep doing it no matter how many times I say this. But I think every step of that process will make the world worse than it currently is, as well-intentioned as it is. So, here's my backstory of how I got to this point. 2012, 2011, a friend shared an earlier precursor of this article. I read it, understood it, and went, okay, this is crap. But I wanted to show the friend it was crap, but I didn't want to write up an article myself. So I tried to find someone else who had already critiqued it. This already existed, but I couldn't find it. This also existed shortly thereafter. But no matter how much I searched, and I'm pretty good with the net, I couldn't find them. Because I didn't know who wrote them, I didn't know what websites hosted them, I didn't know what their titles were. So I had a situation where I had an article in front of me that I knew was wrong, I had friends that believed it, and I needed to convince them that they shouldn't believe this, but I couldn't find someone that had taken the time to show why. So I'm looking at this problem going, isn't it really obvious what I need here? Just show me all the people that have critiqued this. We have an internet full of information, and I know that someone has written about this and said why it's wrong, because it's wrong, and if you read something that's wrong, you just go, that XKCD comic, can't go to bed now, someone's wrong on the internet. We're going to motivate us to critique shit, particularly when it's this crap. And I'm not going to why, I haven't got enough time, but all I wanted was a button that I could press that would give me a list of every page that's ever critiqued that page. It seemed really obvious to me, so I did nothing about it for 6 months trying to find someone who had done it. And no one had done it. So we built a browser extension called Rebutter. It just tells you when the page that you're viewing has been rebutted. Really simple idea. We then added a Twitter reply widget so you can reply to people sharing this information. A hack in the URL. You can add rebuttal.com/ beginning of any URL and it tells you whether there are rebuttals or not. Made a Reddit reply bot which scans Reddit posts, and if there's a link in it that's being corrected, then we can tell them about it. And we had a lot of success. We had 20,000 active plugin users at one point, over 20,000 rebuttals in the system. But the problem is there's no business here. This doesn't make money, and the whole startup thing of giving people what they want, people don't want this. People don't want to install something that tells them what they believe is wrong. Even though Rebutter doesn't do that, we don't say what you believe is wrong, or we're doing something that someone else says that what you believe is wrong. But as long as it is an opt-in system, it's never going to achieve what it needs to achieve. So in the years that I was working on it and the years that I wasn't working on it in between, it became really clear to me that what we needed to do was focus on the data that we collected and make that accessible to the people that need to use it. The people that need to use it are Facebook, Google, and so forth. We don't need to start with them, they'll be the end goals. But we need the people that control the information, the website owners and the plugins that are used. So at the core of this project was this database. And it's this simple. This URL rebuts that URL. That's all it takes. We identify whether they're like directly rebutting or just generally. We also handle voting. But that simple core to this simple database allows us to do, say this. On the top left there, you've got a website, a web page, a URL, and these are all the other URLs that are connected to that one. So we've got a list of every page that connects to the first page. Now, how do you sort that list? Well, yeah, there's many different ways to do it, but an obvious one is allowing people to vote. Now, when someone votes on this list, they're not voting to this page saying it's the best page on this topic. They're not voting saying this one's right and that one's wrong. The votes are purely basing that vote saying, yeah, this is a good critique of that page. And the objective is to sort this list of pages to figure out which one's the best critique. It's not about truth, it's not about trust, it's not about anything other than getting the best critique at the top of the list. Because at the end of the day, that's what you want. You want the strongest argument. So, most people know what straw manning an argument is, maybe. So a straw man argument is when you're arguing against someone, but instead of arguing against what they actually believe, you make up a weak version of their argument and then you knock that down. It's a real problem with discussions because it's irrelevant knocking down something that someone doesn't believe. This process sort of takes that out. It allows you to artificially steal man, is a term I've heard of. I think it was the principle of charity, is a philosophical term. We want to get the strongest argument to the top so that the people that wrote the original article, the people that believe that, can respond to our best argument, not to something that someone said that's crap. We want the strongest argument because then that's a page two, that can be critiqued and rebutted. So now we've got a list of rebuttals to that page, and the people that believe this can vote amongst anyone can vote amongst those pages to get the best critique, and so on. And so now we have content that exists on the web that is connected semantically, but not necessarily connected through links. Like if you're just viewing the first page, it doesn't tell you about any of these other pages. But the database stores the connections, and now we've organized the web so that from any given page, you have full access to the best debate of this issue that the internet has available. That's what, that's the core of all the work on Rebuttal, and that's the concept that I'm bringing to the Socratic web. So, when the latter half of 2016, when fake news finally became this big issue, and people suddenly realized that misinformation causes problems. It could result in nuclear war if you elect the wrong president. Climate change, these things have consequences, and when people believe misinformation, they vote and act in stupid ways. So the world started caring, and for me, like having worked on Rebuttal, like all we need is critiques, something like that. Non-invasive, doesn't pop up, doesn't say it's wrong. You can pop up on every single link, click on it, get access to the rebuttals. Facebook can implement that. What's quite obvious to you though is what we've done with Rebuttal wasn't set up to allow them that confidence. We're not going to work with a little startup that hasn't proven the ability to guarantee the quality of rebuttals. So the idea behind the Socratic web is to launch the non-profit, open access, open source consortium that is built with the collaboration of these companies to get their input to meet their needs so that they feel confident to implement this system themselves. We build the database for their needs, and then that database, which is sit in the center, is public good, doing its own thing. Facebook would query the API from the database, they develop their own user interface, they put it however it suits them, they test it. Twitter could do the same thing. Google could do it in their search results in Chrome, Mozilla, Microsoft. Everyone could just query the database and use it however they want. And then on the other end, anyone that writes critiques, if you knew that the critiques you wrote would immediately be attached to the thing that you're critiquing everywhere on the web, there's no question that you would submit it to the database the second you wrote it. It's the best traffic you'll ever get. So, and then you got other third party, like Rebuttal itself would just become like another third party that accesses the database and allows people to vote on the links or whatever. So, what I have here is a practical solution, and when I say solution, it doesn't solve the issue. Fake news will still be there, misinformation will still be there, and people will still believe it. But it's the beginning of the foundation, it's part of the immune system. It's that prompt, it's like, are you sure? But not just, are you sure about this misinformation, it's, are you sure about everything? Question it, think about it. And if you're not sure, read the rebuttal, you might learn something. Not just about the issue, but about how to critique things, how to think critically. This process will actually teach critical thinking. And so to implement this, it's technically simple, completely neutral to misinformation, so it doesn't pick sides, doesn't decide anything, you have to trust it. Promotes critical thinking. Now the difficulty to get there is, of course, getting the buy-in from Facebook and Google. That's the big issue, working on that. The algorithm to sort the critiques, there will be an arms race. People will try and spam it, people will try and game it. Not insolvable, just an issue, just an iterative issue to solve. And how do I allow learning from distributed interfaces? They are the three big issues that need to be solved and which happen over time. So this brings me to the third section, and this is basically the last slide. The reason I am here is I'm working on this, I've got connections, I've been working at SydEthereum in conferences, I know people, lots of these organizations. The question is, before I begin building it, what is the role of blockchain in this? Because I want to have this public, open source, trustless database. And blockchain has, does that sort of thing. I just haven't yet, I don't understand the blockchain well enough to figure out whether the blockchain will help this or just be an unnecessary headache. So, either, I think probably, in questions, asking questions in general, but if anyone wants to help or participate or tell me some answers to this, I'll be around all night, come find me and let's talk. And then I'll take this. So thank you all for listening. Yep.
Have you looked at the Steam blockchain, SydEth?
I'm aware of Steam. I have not looked at the white paper for it yet. So I don't know.
What you have, like, what's the incentive for somebody to rebut something?
Traffic. If you take the time to critique something, your objective is to, if you read an article that you go is nonsense, then it hurts me when I read stuff that I know is convincing lots of people of bullshit. Like that vaccination thing. I know what's wrong with that study. It's just complete bullcrap. But I know that people see that every day and believe it.
Yeah, but you're a rational person.
So that's my motivation, right? If my motivation is, if I take the time to critique it, you know that I want my critique in front of the people reading that article.
Yeah.
So there's a strong motivation.
I think there might be a solution on the Steam blockchain, so worth checking out.
Okay, cool.
I have two questions. Did you consider implementing trollman filter?
Yeah.
And the second question is related to the reviewing algorithm. For instance, some issues might be highly controversial, and it doesn't mean it's right or it's wrong. It's just that some people are going to react a lot because they might feel emotional about it. Like I'm thinking about maybe what happened in Charlottesville and stuff like this.
Yeah.
So, like for instance, if you're saying something that should be done in a way and you have a lot of opposers, you might have a lot of people commenting about it, but actually would be not rational comments.
Yeah, right. So, sorry.
Yeah. So that's how would you deal with this?
Yeah. So the first question for everyone that couldn't hear it is, do we have a filter for trolling? So of course, at this point in time, a lot of the nuanced control doesn't exist in Rebuttal. And of course, with the Socratic web side of things, say it still needs to be developed from scratch. Everything I've learned from Rebuttal with consideration from Facebook and Google. So a lot of these things will come out in those talks and in that work. But in short, because of the way that it works, the structure is incredibly self-protective. there's one requirement for every single page in this list to that. There's one requirement that is just set in stone. It has to be critical of the first one. So if something's not critical, it gets tagged as spam. If it's just nonsense, it gets tagged as spam. It has to meet this basic requirement. And the other thing is, because we're doing URL level, it's not like someone can just go in and create an account and write a comment. So the time invested to create an article or a page is a threshold above the usual commenting system. It's not flawless, and by no means do I want to give that impression. This is a very blunt instrument. It's no fine grained problem. It's that way by design, because if you want to start getting really high detailed and strict controls, the amount of information, the amount of issues, the amount of angles are just infinite, and we won't get anywhere. So this is just by design intentionally simple. It's that simple. That's all it is. So there's a lot of problems with that, but it allows people to act. It allows us to make progress. And then down the line, with it implemented, then there'll be lots of room for, like you guys understand, the sidechain sort of concept. Get this core done, and then people can start diving into the content on each page and pulling out data and extrapolating on the arguments. I think I've rambled off the question though. With regards to trolls and people sort of intentionally getting inflaming, that will come down to the algorithm allowing, because in order to get a trolled argument to the top, you're going to have to brigade it. You have to get a lot of people to come in and vote it up against what the public wants. And so this is no different to Google's constant arms race with SEO issues. There's no answer to it. It is an iterative process.
So at that point, are you then becoming less trusted?
So just what you said with your algorithm, are you becoming the trusted authority that you're trying to pull away from?
Yeah, so that is the one point of difficulty here. So I've got a couple of thoughts on how to approach that. But this is also another thing about the blockchain, is could the blockchain help in that issue of making it a trusted process by making it public in some way? If you make it public, does that mean you necessarily lose the arms race because people know what to target? So this is a very difficult question. But at the end of the day, if we have to have a private algorithmic update like Google does, it may be necessary. And so there will be some element of trust in it. But at least one of the ways to sort of get around that is to allow to have 3 or 4 different algorithms or sort methods and let people choose which one they prefer themselves.
Just conceptually, you had a question. You had the example of white swan, black swan. The absence of black swans doesn't mean to prove that they're all white. So just because I find a page that doesn't have a critique doesn't mean it's correct. It could mean that nobody's ranked it yet, nobody's read it, I haven't found it. So the absence of critique doesn't mean that it's correct.
Absolutely.
So how do I find what's right?
You don't find what's right. Hopefully by that point that you come across the page that has no critique, at least you've read enough critiques or seen critiques often enough that you know that nothing's infallible, and you will have the capacity to go, I wonder why this isn't critiqued, and critique it yourself with some of the skills you've learned from other articles. And if anything, one of the things that will come from this is, one of the problems with fake news is someone will write an article in 30 seconds and then put it out there, and you can't debunk that sort of thing for hours or days. It takes time for you to notice it, and it takes time for you to research it, and it takes time to publish it. So one of the things that will happen is fake news will go out there and we'll have no rebuttals against it for a day or two. But that will be probably more obvious because every page has rebuttals, and this page is so new it has no rebuttals, so it's well, maybe I'll wait for a day or two before I look at it. So it can change the way we interact with information by that nature. When there's no rebuttal, it's a reason to pause. One more?
You've had much exposure to the decentralised news network in the States?
No. Yeah.
So they're on the fake news as well. One of the elements
Is it a wiki? Is that not Jimmy?
I don't think it's a wiki. I think it's their
That's Wiki Tribune, I'm thinking of, yes.
Yeah, they're rewarding voters, if you like, with coin or part of coin for being part of it. It's not that well advanced yet, but there's some people, you want to just have a check that out.
Yeah. Actually, now I think I have heard of a blockchain decentralized network, but I haven't looked into it at all. So.
Decentralized news network.
Okay, thanks. As I said, we're out of time. I will stick around, come ask me questions. I'll go to the back now if anyone wants me now, but I'll be around on that. Thank you very much.
Also,
Thank you, Sam. Alright, so there is pizza and beer in the same area we were in before, so go grab it, drink all the beer, because I don't want to have to carry it out. All the beer is out there, it's all beer we have, drink it all. Don't want to be that very responsibly.
I do have more organization. Last statement, please. Can you hear us?
You guys can hear me? I cannot hear you guys now. Now I can hear you. Yeah. Okay. Now we're in conversation. You guys can hear me as well. Okay, perfect.
So the screen is going to flip towards the
Sure. What's it? Yes. Yeah? We're doing it now? Ja, nee, maar ik spreek goed Nederlands, dus the standard procedure. Great. Yeah, I can see the audience. Yeah.
Alright, everyone, grab a beer and it's really left over. And grab a seat. That's it. Alright. Grab 2 beers and have a seat. Alright, come on. Grab a beer, have a seat.
I can see the room. That's prima. Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Okay, cool. Okay, let's get started. So our next speaker is actually Skyping, videoing, magic, complicated technology that didn't work as usual, in from the Netherlands. So this is Vince Beans. Vince is the head, I think, head of, or possibly one of the heads of or something, of an awesome blockchain incubator in the Netherlands, one called Brightlands and another one called Tech Option. I'm sure we'll talk a bit more about that. I really want to get Vince to describe him today because so if you look up, there's a podcast, I think I posted it in the meetup group as well, there's a podcast by Future Thinkers, and Vince was interviewed on there, and I must have listened to it, like, I think when it came out like a year or two ago, and I think still to this day, it's still the best podcast I've ever listened to about using blockchain for like actual, like, real, purposeful, social good stuff. I mean, most of us tend to think of blockchain, cryptocurrencies as finance, fintech, exchange, insurance, and sure, it can be used for those things, but like for me personally, and I hope a lot of other people, like, it's a bit boring. There's other more interesting use cases that will help change the world for better for everyone. So we're going to hand over to Vince, who's going to talk about some of these ideas and what he does, and yeah, so everyone, Vince Means.
How's the energy in the room? Everybody excited? Yes? Very good, very good. Okay, then I'm happy to talk. So first of all, yeah, I think I sometimes wonder what a revolution looks like, and I think Skyping into the other side of the globe to all kinds of like-minded people also interested in the topic that's going to change society. For me, I'm very happy to be invited by Nathan, and very happy to speak to you guys. So a quick intro from my side. I started out 15 years ago as a software developer, and I think like in 2012, I got in first contact with the blockchain thanks to Bitcoin and Ethereum popping up, and I built BTC Direct, which is one of the bigger exchanges here in Europe. I think we now have a trading volume of 25 million a month. That's now gradually building up, and it basically got me hooked on this technology. This was not just a technology, this was something way, way bigger. Like I'm 31 years old, I kind of missed the internet bubble, but this whole hype, I think I'm sitting front row timing-wise, and you guys as well. So right now I'm working at Brightlands, which is a super cluster of innovation campuses in the Netherlands, and this basically means we have 4 innovation booths. Tens of thousands of people working there, and one of those this campus we've focused on leveraging blockchain and AI to tackle climate change. And this for me sounded like a very fascinating combination to tackle climate change. The small story behind the campus is that one of its biggest investors is APG, which is a huge pension fund. They manage 450 billion in assets, and they feel that they can way more impact on society by leveraging blockchain than almost any other thing. So they really try to facilitate now all kinds of blockchain startups and blockchain companies to start working there. The campus is an open innovation campus, so that means that we all work together on things before we actually start thinking about intellectual property, and preferably we try to keep things open source. So at our campus, I think we now have like over 200 companies associated that join in on these sessions, and they build all kinds of new use cases for the future. So before I dive a bit deeper, I would like to address a bit of why I'm so excited about this whole blockchain movement. And I think from my side, the biggest change is that we're going to see a shift from content or box thinking into context thinking. And if you look at bank accounts, for example, every bank account is now a little box, and I cannot see your bank account and you cannot see mine. But on the blockchain, everything is visible to everyone, and therefore we can start putting things into context. And I think the whole value behind everything is often way more in the context instead of in actual content. And I think this whole thinking of thinking in context, like if, for example, I purchase something in the supermarket and I can see where the supermarket bought it, I can see which farm it came from, and so on, and you can start seeing this. I think it's a way more valuable way of looking at society. Like we need to start moving away from products, and we need to start looking at the stories behind products, and the story behind everything that we purchase. And I think once we do that, we will start becoming more and more aware of the impact that we have on society. Like now, every time I go to a supermarket, I only buy things for the cheapest price because I don't know any better. I don't know that if I buy something for a very cheap price from the other it will lose local employment by local farmers and so on, and we, as a consumer, we barely realize how much impact we have on our local environment. And I think once as consumers we become aware of the fact that everything that we buy impacts our local direct society, then we can start kickstarting a revolution by our own consumption. One thing I always like to highlight is this thing from philosophy. It's called the prisoner's dilemma. I don't know who of you is with the concept of the prisoner's dilemma. Anyone in the room with philosophy? Yes? Okay. I think the prisoner's dilemma, if I explain it very simply, is the concept that if two of us got arrested and we were unintentional or like we were not guilty, that we would get like a potential deal to get out pretty quickly if we snitch on the other person. So we basically screw over the other person for our own benefit instead of both and staying in prison long enough, but at least not claiming guilt. And that's a concept. If you look at that with blockchain, like for example the clothes I'm wearing, because I'm now not seeing literally where these clothes come from. I don't see this sweatshop in Asia where the clothes come from or whatever. I as a consumer can hide from my responsibility for purchasing these things. But with the blockchain, you will start seeing a shift where I will start becoming aware of what I'm actually buying, and for good practices start shifting from manufacturers towards us as consumers. And it's the same with food, it's the same with every kind of product that we have. And I think therefore in the future, like the currency of what money now is will slowly fade away, and the new currency will become context. The story behind something will become way more valuable in saying something about it than the actual product. And I think in the end, like money will start shifting more and more backwards to becoming like one of the last things to exchange if you don't see any other value in each other. So to give you a couple of examples of the projects that are happening right now here in relation to the blockchain space, is one of the first things is called the plastic bank. I don't know if you guys are familiar with social plastic or the plastic bank. It basically means that all the packaging manufacturers, for example, that produce food, for drinks and so on, they use a plastic offset token that they put on the blockchain. And this token gives value that anyone that has similar plastic can basically claim. And the concept behind this is that all the polluted beaches or the sea where the plastic is in, you can start picking up this plastic and claiming the value for it. And it's actually creating by balancing out this offset mechanism from the people that push it into circulation, and on the other hand, giving the value to people that that have the pollution in their environment and don't have the maybe the income to clean it up or the necessary context to clean it up. In regards to this context, another startup that is currently here is basically changing how education right now works. Because here in the Netherlands, I don't know how it is in Australia, education has kind of also become like a product. People buy a diploma, and once the diploma, the whole responsibility from the university or the school for the person kind of fades away. And here in Europe, you have a concept, for example, in the sports world. If a small amateur club trains like a young sports player and he gets sold, every time the player gets sold to a new team, all the clubs that train him basically get a kickback fee for being part of the growth of this player, even the local amateur club where. So, for example, here if someone gets sold to Barcelona, like a small local club, will still get a lot of money. And like the startup here is now trying to apply this model to education. And basically everyone that contributes to your career will have like a mini earning structure and a little relationship that keeps you guys connected and keeps you all in relation to each other, and thereby motivated to go for each other's success and just selling you the. Another thing is that with this whole tokenization movement right now, we are now tokenizing every part of the buildings that our campuses are made of. And this means like every panel of wood, every window, every metal part, everything gets put on the blockchain. and it gets sold already to a potential buyer that basically purchases the rights once the building gets torn down, that they have the value of every part in the building, and thereby they start moving cash forward. Another thing is we're having a drinking water project where basically you have smart drinking water taps and smart drinking water installations that are connected all over the world, and thanks to the blockchain you will have like an offset mechanism that every time someone drains a liter of water here, it kind of pays a premium to a liter of water at a different pump in the world. And actually every time someone taps, they can see who they are affecting, and they can see the impact that they have with every liter of water they drink. Another pilot we're doing right now is that we're actually mapping the trees in our gardens. And we have a small mechanism where the tree's GPS coordinates put in the blockchain. And every time someone walks past it, they make a micro donation for the tree being beautiful and getting air and all these kind of crazy things. And actually, we are now programming a contract where if there is enough money then in this small account, the tree will be able to pay for planting the next tree. And thereby the trees will become programmable, or programmable nature, or connected nature, however you like to call it. And I think this is a mechanism we're going to see way more and more. And one other thing I would like to highlight is Mobotic. This self-driving pod. And actually the founders of this project, they looked at how a car is now manufactured, and they tried to make a car that's totally made out of open source and open hardware parts that anyone can order anywhere in the world and can start building locally. And to fund the manufacturing of these pods, they issue a local mobility coin, and this local mobility coin can be claimed by the people building it. These pods, they drive on solar energy from local energy co-ops, and it uses local employment, local funding, local energy, and thereby you leave all the wealth around mobility local instead of giving it to big foreign companies. And these are like some of the ingredients that we have right now here on the campus. But I would like to make it a bit more dynamic because I see you guys are all sitting relatively still. So maybe it's interesting if we start a small Q&A, or maybe shoot some questions. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. Let me just like
Yes.
Hello. Okay. Questions? Awesome.
Yes.
Would I really hear more about the water project that you're working on? It sounded quite interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So basically how it works is that you have the tapping points. They have like a smart sensor, so you can use your phone or an NFC chip to unlock the tapping of water. And thereby the tapping points, they are connected to other tapping points. So you basically have a decentralized water grid where we constantly know how much water is at each location. And we can unlock them by connecting tapping points. So you can say, for example, if I tap water here in the Netherlands, that it unlocks a liter of water that is paid for example, in Australia. And every time that someone in Australia taps it, they can you get like a feedback loop that I can see what my liter of water impacted on the other side of the globe. So I can start seeing, if you would put a webcam on it, for example, people that I help with what I do. And I think this is in the future more and more going to happen, that you want to see what is the impact that I'm having with doing good instead of just paying money to a good cause for these kind of things. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Hi mate. Just wondering, how do you fund these projects?
Okay, so right here at the campus we have a bit of a mix, because 1/3 of the shareholders is this pension fund, 1/3 is the local government. They really get involved because they really believe that the whole blockchain model and how how it's going to affect society, is going to be like the engine for our region. And the third is the universities and the schools. And on top of this, we created our own network fund basically, where all the senior entrepreneurs here in the region, they are connected with government funds again, and they collaborate in funding these projects. So you have to think, in our case, we have a 50,000 grant to research the technical and economical feasibility of a project like this, and then a 250K convertible loan to develop the first proof of concept, and after that it becomes venture capital. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. Oh, hi, I'm Derek. You mentioned a blockchain project to tackle climate change. I was just curious because we're looking to do the same thing.
Very good, okay. Yeah.
And I'm sure many ways to skin a cat.
Absolutely. I think that the most important thing right now is that every transaction, we're mostly basing on price. So if I go into, for example, I buy a product based on a price tag and maybe a brand. But I think we will have a lot of different indicators in the future for everything. Like, for example, the distance that the product traveled, or the amount of energy used to create the product, these kind of things. And these are like, we're now doing small pilots where from the moment that it's on the farm, for example, we start to track all kinds of parameters around products, like location or energy usage or these kind of things that we start mapping out. And we're trying to make it visible to consumers. And so that in the end, we start consuming as much as we can locally, and as much as we can based on having the smallest footprint, for example. Yeah. So what's your perspective on tackling? I'm curious.
Our consumers or our custodians, they make energy coins for consuming green electricity. And the energy coins are a royalty coin. So.
Okay. I think that's also in the future now. You see this whole decentralization, of course, of power supplies, of drinking water supplies, of all kinds of, like here in the Netherlands, I know you guys don't have the problem in Australia, but we're building a heat exchange. Basically, we have a lot of industrial sites that produce a lot of heat, and we're now connecting like a piping system where all the heat can get used by homes to warm themselves. And we're going to install like smart devices basically to track how much energy you extract or add to this roundabout of heat, so to say.
I don't know if you noticed, Ledger, who's also in this space, launched a successful pre-sale ICO, raised $9 million in 4 days. They're Perth-based over here. So there's a lot going on in energy and blockchain.
Definitely.
Oh, nice.
Definitely. I think in the end. Sorry?
Yeah, thanks. Nice.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think in the end, like the whole thing is now I'm literally buying electricity just for a day rate and a night rate, for example, here in the Netherlands. But I think in the future you will literally have like a portfolio, just how you have Blockfolio, for example, now. Except then I see tokens like, okay, these are enable energy tokens, these are like solar thing from the industrial site 20 kilometers further away. And we will start abstracting a layer on top of the energy that will make it way more interesting to trade. Yeah.
Well, a Dutch businessman once told me a Dutch saying, which was, we bake the cake together, we eat the cake together. Is that true?
That's absolutely true. We're a very cooperative nation. So we're a very small country. So if we wouldn't cooperate and share, like we would get hit in the head by other countries. So it's in our nature. Very good. I'm happy to connect.
Hey, buddy. There's an article recently called "Barbarians at the Monetary Gate," and it's about how the rise of cryptocurrency and lots of enterprises going into decentralized systems are actually threatening the whole of government over the rest of like the people that are voting in. So I was wondering, you said that 1/3 of your funding for some of these projects were from government. Do they know that they're funding technology that's going to be fundamentally destroying their hold on their populace? And what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's actually, we have a pretty progressive governor, and he's actually, he made a statement where he said, I don't know if kind of like the whole government building here will still exist in 10 years, because you really start seeing a shift back where small groups of people start taking control over their own neighborhood or about arranging a lot of things themselves instead of depending upon government. And this is actually something that's happening in this region already just before the blockchain whole movement started. But I think it will push through, and I think this is also the dynamic that blockchain brings. That in the past, if I didn't agree with how governments would control something or whatever, I couldn't do anything about it except for being voted in a couple of years later. Now, I think with blockchain, if you don't like something, you take the template of what the guy did before you, and you adapt some parameters, and you come up with an alternative. And thereby, the whole responsibility starts shifting towards you as a citizen to make it better every day, and not just be a consumer of government, but also try to see how you can improve it constantly. And I think here in our region, a bit of background, just very briefly, is that we started with mass employment here with the coal mines, and then we had the coal mines closed, and then we had a lot of unemployment, and then we had big offices moved here from capital. And now again, we have this unemployment wave, and we need to come up with something new. And I think our government here locally really embraces this innovative change and focusing on this new society that blockchain and AI and these things are going to bring, instead of just waiting for it to be challenged.
Yeah, so just a comment on that. Can you maybe talk to the Australian government about that? Because I'd love them to have the same kind of thoughts.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'll send we're going to make it happen. Okay, thanks.
Awesome. So I think we're just about to run out of time. Any closing thoughts about is the future going to be a crypto authoritarian dystopia, or is it going to be a beautiful utopia?
For me, it's going to be a beautiful utopia, definitely. I think the whole shift from just being relatively passive as a normal citizen on your impact on society or the world that's out there, and shifting this towards one where everyone is basically like someone that can change things and make an impact in the world. I think that's going to create a super good world. So I'm very positive about the future. I don't have a TV, so I don't watch the news, but I hear this guy in the US sometimes being complained about. But I feel confident that we're going to go into a very, very promising and good time. It's time on a bit of life in this age, because it's an age where everyone has the opportunity to make a big impact. I heard this quote a week ago on what the definition of a billionaire is. And a billionaire is not someone who has $1 billion, but someone who impacts 1 billion lives. And I think if I look at you guys in the room, I hope that some of you will pick up that role in the future of impacting 1 billion lives by putting something out there. And that's that's a good thing. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks so much for your time, Vince. We're literally about to issue our first SydEthereum tokens live right now. That's the next thing.
Okay, very cool.
Awesome. Thanks for coming in, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sweet. So, Nick is one of the co-organisers. The donation. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I should do that. So we, because this month was basically funded by essentially donations. I mean, we always try and get funding from a corporate who wants to help us out, because that makes things a lot easier. But we asked for donations this month, and Danny helped us out awesomely. So we figured, well, we may as well start asking for donations as well, and just see what happens. So if you go to there's two options. So you go to eth.SydEth. So we've got an Ethereum wallet address. If you have some Ether that you want to donate, it'll drop in there. Very good, you're on. So we set up an Ether address and a Bitcoin address. And so what we'll do is, so at the moment the organisers are just kind of controlling those private keys, but what we'll do is every month we'll do a bit of like a transparency update and just say, look, here's all the money that's in there. And if we do spend it on things like pizza or beer, then we'll say, this is where that money went. So, it's not ideal. Ideally, we have some voting system where, we all control where that goes, but that may be something that happens in the future. So yeah, eth.sydeth.com, we'll go to the wallet address for ETH, btc.sydeth.com, we'll go to that. Or if you're familiar with ENS, you can literally just type in donate.sydethereum.eth and it'll go, it resolves to the right address, which is really cool. I think the other thing, there's also a blockchain, Google blockchain social hackathon. There's another, this whole event that I kind of put together today is all about trying to social good and all these future uses of blockchain. And these guys messaged saying, can you just pimp this out? So it was pretty good. I think is it run by consensus? Yeah. So check out this as well. So blockchainforsocialimpact.com, they're running a hackathon fairly soon. I think it's a bunch of money up for grabs. But yeah, basically it's open to the world. If you've got an idea for a social good hackathon, jump on that. 20 grand. Yeah, so check that out. So Nick Anderson, he's one of the co-organizers of SydEthereum. He has built a freaking SydEthereum ERC20 token, and he's going to issue it live right now.
So I love Nick's talk about it because it was like a rapid fire of things you can do with tokens. So why not have a token for a Sydney meetup, or in fact this token can be used for any meetup. And I was sort of inspired by the last week or last month when we were talking about ERC20 tokens and what you can do with it. So I was like, well, let's create one. So effectively what I'm going to do is, hang on, I'll hold that. So the motivation behind it is to get people using tokens basically. So if I give everyone some free tokens, and then you can transfer it around, and then we can come up with innovative ways in which we can do it. So this is open source. So SydEthereum is the on GitHub. The way it works is you put your address, your Ethereum address in the introduction section. I've got a bit of a blurb there, but if I go to Bridie's, she's just back her address in there. I have a program which basically goes through, grabs those addresses, and anyone who's got their address in there, I'll issue 1,000 tokens. It's basically, I won't go into the details, but it's an ERC20 contract where I'll issue it. It's all on the repository there. For those who don't know what this is, I'll send some notes out, but here's the API file you'll need if you're going to go and create the, put that in your wallet. I've already deployed the contract last night, just because deploying can take a while. So I have a geth node here, which hopefully is keeping up to date. What can go wrong with a live token issuance? When you go wrong. So this is when I deployed the contract before. I do have a console version of this, but this is, let's see what happens. So basically what this is doing, hopefully if I've got internet, and yep, okay. So this is looking into the geth node I've got running on here and looking for any historical events, any tokens which have been issued, because you can only issue the tokens once. So it basically matches up on, so your meetup ID and your Ethereum ID, so it basically uses those two to work out whether you've been issued before. So it's churning away. So once it does that, it'll go into the meetup, get all the addresses, and then it should go through and issue the tokens. Now, if you haven't, so there's about 15 people who've already put their address in. You can do it afterwards. I'll run it again, and I'll just pick up the people who haven't, and you'll get the tokens. Then I can also run it again for all the people who have been at this event, and I'll give you 2,000 tokens. But the idea is, it's to, once you get the token, see if you can view it. So your homework, I guess, if you haven't used Ethereum before, is to get yourself a wallet, get yourself an address, put the address in the meter. This thing will run, I'll probably run it once a day or something, or maybe I'll try and deploy it somewhere. So you can see your token, and then for extra points you can try and transfer your token. Transfer the tokens to me, and I'll transfer them back. That's a little bit more complicated because transferring tokens you need some Eth. And obviously this thing's running and taking a lot longer than I thought. Oh, there we go. So now it's going pulling all the addresses out of the, and now it's actually issuing the tokens. So it's issuing the first token to whoever that person is. Whoever has the ID, that ID. Let's go and find out who that is. That wasn't rigged at all. Anyway, so that's going to happen until it gets confirmed. So it depends on how the network's going, how much gas I've put in there. I think I put 6 GUI. So I'll let that run. And yeah, that's it. So the idea is that you can then use these tokens. Maybe we use these tokens for voting on who should be speaking or who should be at events. You could use it for discounts to events. We get people coming to us all the time saying, I want to give a discount to your members. So if you've got one of these tokens, you can get a discount. These ones here are transferable, so the idea is to get people interactive. I probably will do a non-transferable one, so you can't transfer it to someone else. You have to get the credits. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome, thank you, Nick. So the other thing we've been doing lately as well is kind of opening up the meetup group to like independent events. Seeing how like TED does TEDx, so we've been doing ETHX. So if you see ETHX on the event title, it's kind of like an independent event. So anyone who wants to run their own event, not another SydEthereum clone with speakers because they'd be competing against us. So there was actually an event this week that was like, can we do an ETHX? And we have speakers and like, but if you want to run like a workshop or a tutorial or some like hackathon, and you may actually run a hackathon for this, like teach you how all of this code worked, yeah, just contact one of the organizers. You can charge money for it. We've had events before, ETHXs, where they charge a fee, that's fine. You just run it all week to put the events up, as long as it supports and benefits the community. So now we're just going to do quickly an open mic for the last half hour or so. So can everyone who wants to just do a quick shout out, and I'm going to literally time you like you get a minute each, so you're going to do super fast. Can we get your lineup down here? So anyone who wants to talk about anything, pitch their projects, ask the developers, I don't know, talk about what they had for breakfast, anything. Sweet, go.
Hi everyone, my name is William Saunders. I'm Business Development Manager from Blockchain Global down in Melbourne. I just want to invite everyone to our Block Party 1, Australia's first cryptocurrency Super Week. It's going to be hosted in Melbourne at Blockchain Centre down at South Bank. So you're all invited if you want to get plane rides down, that'd be fantastic. We're going to start off Monday night with a Bitcoin Blockchain 101. It's hosted by our Blockchain Centre CEO Martin Davidson. On the Tuesday night, we're going to be doing Ethereum 101. And also we'll be doing something called the Alta, which is an altcoin review. So we'll be doing Monero and Stratus. We also have the guys from Indoors ICO flying down from Singapore to give a bit of a pitch. We're trying to develop a bit of a Shark Tank-like environment down in Melbourne where if you've got a fantastic product to sell, Shark Tank will review you nicely, and if it's not so good, you'll be out on your ear. A bit of a public thing, I guess. Wednesday night we'll be doing crypto traders, which involves a lot of trade analysis. We've got a fantastic guy called Thomas that's going to be doing all the charts and coinage, etc., showing people what things to look for, various charts and lines and clouds and all that sort of technical brilliance. We have our weekly talk and trade afterwards. Thursday we have blockchain business breakfast on the Thursday morning, and Friday we have the world's first, I think, crypto trading tournament that runs for 24 hours. It's a bit of a geek LAN party-like, hackathon-like trading tournament where winners, we're going to treasure a ledger for staying up all night and making the most percentage gain of the crypto portfolio. It's a bit edgy, it's a bit risky, we're going to go with it anyway. So we welcome you all aboard, and 12 seconds, I think I did pretty well. Thank you very much.
Change it to 2 minutes. Hi everyone, my name's Jason. I'm working with some friends and collaborators here and overseas on a new sustainable investment fund for sustainable and ecological projects with global impact. We're very much in startup mode. Our first project is going to be around parcels of the Amazon, and actually being able to purchase those through the and secure those through the Ethereum blockchain. We're looking at having a token sale for that, but we're also looking at using blockchain applications to secure the project and to give transparency to that project. So I'm giving a quick shout out. We're looking for, particularly for social media marketing and also for blockchain technical support. So get in touch with me or find me at jason@regen.eco. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm James. Is this still filming? Is that still?
Yes.
Yeah, good. So I can lock this in. So I'm here to pitch an idea that I want anyone that wants to help me build it. It's called Pirate Coin, and we start targeting Satoshi's Bitcoin wallet. But so my job is actually writing algorithms that are faster and better than anybody else's in medical research. And my boss and I came up with this idea of in cryptocurrency, if we could start targeting wallets, and there's already people that do recovery wallets, but what if we distribute that across a larger field of computing power? I already have more computing power than probably anyone else in this room, accessible to me at all times. So, and I can spin it up whenever I want for whatever I want. So, it would be nice if someone wants to build this as something that people can use, and we can target various wallets. We can tell them that we're targeting them, and if they want to move their money, that's up to them. But anything that's found, the bounty is split accordingly. Just like any other Bitcoin protocol, and if anyone wants to help me, and be like,
Hi, I'm Boki Puba, and I work with several different organizations to help them on their tech and blockchain, Ethereum stuff. One of them is the insurance group in Lithuania, AI Gang. The OpenANX, I've got the decentralized exchange that I'm running, which I'm hoping that ASIC and Australia won't shut down. And I want to announce today that we're starting the Okipuba decentralized virtual Ethereum incubator at the CSIRO FinTech Hub. And so I've been running workshops for developers, and we've got entrepreneurs coming in and also meeting up with developers to try to work out what they can do, what is possible, to try to realize the use cases. So if anyone has any interest in developing, you have interest in finding out what can be done with the Ethereum blockchain, come along, just Google Okipuba.
Hello, my name's Tim McNamara. I'm the founder of a project called the Hub34 project. We're building a distributed interblock network built on the Ethereum blockchain. We're in the early stages of launching a token sale. Effectively what we're looking to do is connect the disparate chatbots, AI engines, IoT devices across the planet, monetising, fractionalising information that passes through our network and monetise for the benefit of the developers rather than the Googles and so forth of the world. If anyone's interested in chatting more about it, I'll be around for a little bit. Thank you.
I'm Derek. I'm an Aussie, but I've been in London for the last 20 years building a European energy business. But I finally found an opportunity to escape and come back to Sydney with an idea. And pirate, I thought tonight was about noble causes.
It's noble for me.
If you invest in pirate coin, you need to see your conscience. You can invest in zero carbon project. We're very concerned about climate change. We think the planet's in a bad way. We think that there are real risks around serious consequences from climate change. There's a massive inflection point coming up if the Arctic melts and the permafrost releases. Carbon emissions equivalent to about 86 times what is currently in the atmosphere. The climate change group in Paris, they've said 2 degrees temperature increase. So we're past that now, it's 4 degrees we're concerned about. Now, we reckon with the way that technology, clean tech, is improving across the forming, we reckon we can convert from carbon-based electricity to green electricity within 50 years. And we think it's important to try to speed up the transition. What we're doing is recruiting what we call custodians to our project. They're effectively consumers who will choose our green electricity supply contracts, which green electricity suppliers around the world can put across our platform. Electricity consumers, green electricity consumers will mint energy coins for consuming green electricity. The energy coins will have rights to future royalties from the green electricity suppliers. And the energy coins will be worth at least what consumers or custodians have to pay for the premium for green electricity. So we think that blockchain can be used through the issuing of energy coins that are royalty coins to contribute to consumers to choose green electricity, help save the planet.
Okay, I'm from China and I'm Calajuros, and hopefully you can understand my English because my accent and I cannot speak fluently, you know. And our company in China has building the platforms since 1 year before, and we focus on the consensus mechanisms, mainly the underlying layers. So we want to build the new blockchain platforms. And until now, we haven't discovered anything but just one name. I just heard from my supervisors and have proved that name. So I want to discuss it to all of you guys. And you guys, I hope you guys will see that soon. This is the Uniscorn, and we will launch on October or November. And by the way, we will not later than this year. Okay, and also one more thing, and we also need more developers to help us to bring these platforms to better our social life. So we will need to look for many talents, developers with underlying background. So you guys can come here to discuss more if you would like to do that. Thank you for your time. It's my first time to be something like that. Thank you again.
Hello. Hi, my name is Leo. Now, I just want to acknowledge the elders elders past and present, we are on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. And I thought that was really great that we had that introduction. My father is involved, he's been a filmmaker for many years, and he's worked with a lot of people all over Australia from the Indigenous nations from all over. And one of the big issues that he's found is the difficulty in having retaining culture and retaining that cultural knowledge. He's been working on a master's thesis, which is all about embedding that cultural knowledge into a VR world. And he's been working on this for a number of years and looking to expand into something. But I just wanted to float this idea out there because we haven't even explored blockchain and the use of this. But I think we're sort of going into a period at the moment in Australia where we're looking at recognising in the Constitution cultural knowledge. And what I think could be a really, really interesting idea, and I would love to have some feedback from the crowd, is if anyone has any ideas on how we could sort of use the blockchain to monetize and help communities in Indigenous areas all over Australia to actually have access to knowledge and use their culture as a way of monetizing that and enabling them to have access to facilities that they really need. So I don't know how the blockchain can fit into it. I obviously have an awareness of it and I have an understanding of it, but I'm really interested in this, and I just thought of this idea before because my dad has been working on this project for a long time. We've been floating many ideas, but I just thought, a room full of brilliant people who all have a lot of ideas. If anyone has any ideas and wants to talk about this further, please come up and talk to me. Thank you.
Hello, I'm James Ashford from Veridictum. Our goal is to reduce online video piracy by 80% over the next 10 years. We're going to do this. I see some head shaking. We're going to do this, we are, by using blockchain and cryptocurrencies to pay for distributed computing. Check us out on veridictum.io. We're in the middle of our ICO right now, our token sale, and we'd love to get your feedback or involvement. Thanks.
Hi, I'm one of Hockey's students in AC. I work with a bunch of guys called Grasscut Projects. And we are looking to help out people in PNG. They have title rights issues where large oil mining companies, they tend to come around and infiltrate their rights as to land, and we're trying to help them with all this information of their title rights on the blockchain, and hopefully look for a way to ensure that their rights are not violated in a particular way. If you are great at databases in that area where you can think that you can integrate it into the blockchain, seek us out. We currently work with New South Wales University, and we also are looking for seed funding from oil companies who are interested in this area. So yeah, hear us out and come help us out. You'll be a hero.
Alright, second round. I think I'll have to buy some of the pirate coins. So, Johnny Peters is not here. He's building a VR/blockchain system. There's some interest in VR here. So, Johnny Peters is building that from his Paddington studio. So, he's come to the workshops and we're working things out, the wallets and how it interacts with the VR on the blockchain, and there's a coin and we make it transferable so you can buy things, buy advertising, earn points in your VR world. So he's not here. I thought I might announce that the crowd sale will be in probably 2 months' time, and I think I'm the chief pooba of the project. Then there's Derek Myers as well, and so we're looking to work on helping with this project and the workshop. Yeah, that's
Thank you. Any others? Any like people? Well, my program did finish. So I issued 11 people, 1,000 tokens each. So you can now see that, well, this is in a parity wallet, so I just thought I'd show you what it looks like. So that's the attributes of it. So we can see 11,000 supply, that was 0 to start with. And here's all the transactions. And you can also see this on Etherscan as well. So, yeah, live issuance.
That's so awesome. So, what else can we do with it afterwards? You were talking about voting?
Voting, I don't know, we come up with ideas. What do you want to do with these tokens? I've got an idea.
You can trade them on crypto derivatives stock market.
Well, I wonder how long until someone puts it on there and trades them. And how much are they going to be worth?
How much do you want to make it worth?
Here we go, there's going to be some demand now.
Okay, I think that's it. So, yeah, thank you so much for coming to SydEthereum. Anything else?
What are you doing with the beer out there?
They took it away from us. Ideally, I'd love to just keep the beer away, so I'm going to have to cut it back. I don't know where anyway.
Dark alley.
Yeah, if there's beer out there, take it with you if you can find it. I don't think that's how it works. I think we're going to put that in.
And what time are we going to get in? By now? Or?
Yeah, so the gates close at 9:30, so you got to get out. Thanks so much for coming, guys. Girls, and if you want to continue the discussion, the Telegram group is probably the best place. Chat.sydeth.com